Okay, so Nick, the move that Lando made on Piastri at the start of the Singapore Grand Prix, like championship back on, okay? You know, it's looking crazy. Yes.
Championship was never off, let's be honest. Wait a minute. Anastasia, which podcast are we recording right now?
Sorry, this is the Ground Pass podcast. That's the other podcast that we have. Okay, great. So let's bring it. Okay, sorry. So sorry. Hey guys, welcome to the Ground Pass podcast. This is a tennis podcast. That was our F1 podcast that doesn't exist yet, but maybe will be one day.
If you, in the replies to this, if you want to reply on Spotify or YouTube or wherever you're listening to this, if you want to hear us do an F1 podcast, please let us know.
Let us know, because that's all we talk about other than tennis. So if you want to hear that, let us know. But welcome to the Ground Pass podcast. We've been having a very fun birthday. It was our birthday yesterday. We're recording this on Sunday, and it's been really great. We recorded a special birthday episode. If you haven't listened to that yet, I will link that in the show notes. But today, this is our regular scheduled Monday episode, recording on Sunday, but it will be out on Monday. We're going to be talking about tennis in Asia. It's still going on right now. We are also going to be catching up on what's been going on tour. There's been a lot of conversations about schedule, court speed. We'll touch on those a little bit. And we had a Q&A in our birthday episode. We had some questions still left over from that. So we're going to answer the rest of those questions and wrap up our little birthday celebration. So sit down, grab a coffee. I did, and sit back, relax, and let's get into it.
Ah, DSW, birthplace of the humble brag. Here, the shoes are so good, no one would ever know how little you paid. If you didn't go telling everyone, that is. And with never-ending options for every style, mood, and occasion, all at really great prices. We'll definitely give you something to brag about. So go ahead, stock up on fresh sneakers from your favorite brands. Or try those boots you always secretly knew you could pull off. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
Okay, so Nick, it's actually been really great for me. I have been catching up on a lot of tennis as I wake up in the morning, and I'm sorry, I delayed the start of this episode because there are a few matches I was catching up on this morning. I watched the finals of Beijing against Linda Noskova and Amanda Anisimova, and then I was watching the match in Shanghai against Novak Djokovic and Yannick Hoffman. He's from Germany. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of early morning Asian tennis watching. I tend not to watch it at night because it's usually too late. It starts at like midnight or 11 p.m. and I'm asleep. I'm not doing that. So I usually do it in the morning. What's your schedule been like?
Well, it's interesting. It starts late for you. So that sounds like how it is for me in kind of Australia, but not as bad. Yeah, for me, the tennis kicks off at like 4 a.m. 4 a.m. So we're about halfway through the tennis day when I wake up. So usually what I do is I check scores, and then catching up is tough because I have to go to work. And then by that point it's all done. So I just keep up with stuff and keep up with the big stories, and then I'll watch what I can. If I can have it on in the background, great. But yeah, or if it's a weekend, I can usually spend a Saturday morning watching it. But yeah, it's not too dissimilar to you. The tennis on catch-up is very much the theme of how everything is post-US Open up until we get to year-end finals season.
Yeah, I've been talking to a few people on Threads and Blue Sky. A few people have been messaging me, asking me, what my tips and tricks are, like how am I keeping up with the tennis? And, a few people. And it's interesting. There are just so many different ways. Some people stay up all night, and guys, that's a lot. I know someone who, messaged me and they're like, I just stay up all night and I don't sleep. And I'm like, that's a lot of commitment. Please don't do that. Get some rest. Sleep is very, very important. Some people do it like you. They do it on catch up. Some people just look at the scores because they, there's work and you have to go to work. And they catch up on the weekend, like you said. So there are different ways of keeping up with the Asian swing. It's not easy. But again, that's the global nature of tennis. It travels around the world. So sometimes it's in your time zone and sometimes it's not. But that's what's great about tennis as well. So let's catch up a little bit. I did the mini pod last week, and when I did it, we did not have the winners yet of Tokyo and Beijing on the men's side. So Alcaraz won Tokyo. Jannik Sinner won Beijing. I mean, Nick, they're winning everything.
Yeah. Like, we knew that was going to happen almost as soon as, we knew they were going to be playing there. It was going to be those two are going to win Tokyo and Beijing, and then they go on a winning streak, and then it's going to be another face-off in Shanghai. The only thing that could stop that is injury, which unfortunately has happened. It didn't stop Carlos Alcaraz from winning in Tokyo, even though it did occur in his early round. So I don't know how he carried on, but it has meant that now he pulled out Shanghai last minute. So we will not get an Asian showdown for a second year running between those two players. But yeah, that was the only thing. So one of those was inevitable. The other is a sad development, really, that Alcaraz and Sinner will have to wait a little bit longer for their next match.
Yeah, totally. And it's a shame for the Shanghai fans that they don't get to see Alcaraz there. And something that was really funny that happened was Carlos had to make sort of like a video apologizing to the fans in Shanghai. And I made a comment because for me, that was the first time I realized that these two boys have reached a different level of stardom from the rest of the field. Like, they're now in the sort of Novak, Nadal, Roger sphere, because he had to make a video apologizing to the fans that he couldn't come to the Shanghai Masters. And that's just not something players do when they pull out of a tournament. Like, they just don't do that. If it's a home tournament, so for example, if, Alexander Zverev pulls out of the a tournament in Germany, or if actually Carlos has done this before when he pulled out of Madrid or a local tournament, yes. But a tournament in China, there was no reason to, except they're at that level of stardom now where there is almost a requirement or a need for them to show up at these big events. And if they don't, there needs to be this sort of like, reason and almost apology and my fans and, I'll see you next year kind of video. So yeah, that was a very interesting development. And I thought, wow, they're on a different level.
You're spot on because, I can't think of many other people that you would buy a ticket specifically to see unless you already know of that player. Maybe it's like your home favorite player in a big tournament. It's like you go and see one of the top Americans or the top Brits or, one of the top Chinese players if you're in China, which, we just had a similar thing with Xiangqin Wen pulling out of Wuhan and having to do her own apology video and like announcement, which would probably even be a bigger deal for the Chinese fans, to be honest. But yeah, if you think about it, like generically, like regardless of country of origin, it's those two that you would buy a ticket to watch. And it's kind of in that sort of big three and Williams sisters sphere of when you buy a ticket, you hope you're going to go and see them level really. And there you go. That's already going to show that, tennis moves on and we get new stars. And it's exciting that, more and more people are hearing about these guys. And yeah, this is great for tennis that, they are of that level. But I'm interested to hear, like, is there a player you listeners would like buy I will go to this tournament if I know that I can see this player. Like Grand Slams, there's a good chance of that anyway. But like, so that would be a question of, would you buy a stadium ticket in the hope of seeing Carlos Alcaraz or Jannik Sinner or insert different player in here? But yeah, I'd love to hear it. Like, I know we were talking on our birthday podcast, which you can go back and listen to. Like, I'm pretty sure there were players that you, Anastasia, would like, I am buying a ticket to go see that player because I know they're there. And I probably would as well in the past too. Like, getting to see Roger Federer at the O2 Arena was a big deal for me.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. So it's crazy, but here we are. I think we all thought, oh, what are we going to do when the big three are gone and when Serena is gone? And here we are already. Tennis moves on, life moves on. We have a new group already. I wanted to mention, so Sinner won Beijing, obviously, but we're all about the other stories that happen. And um, who also won Beijing, a Beijing title, are Double H. Now you might be like, who's Double H? Double H are Henry Patton and Harry Heliovera. They're doubles players. And we have a Meet the Player episode with them, which I will also link in the show notes. But they're really top doubles players. They won the Australian Open this year, but they won the Australian Open this year and then kind of have not won a title since. They were the defending champions at Wimbledon. They had a very good 2024 season, but their 2025 season has not been great, but they won the Beijing title. So they're back in the winning circle, doing really well. They're in the Shanghai Masters as well, and they've won a couple of matches there too. So it's really nice to see them back winning a title and, sort of like picking up momentum again. So it was really great to see them winning a title there too. And also, I see here, Nick, you also put Lerner Tien back on the radar. And yes, it was really nice to see Lerner Tien back in the conversation.
Yeah, because he got a few big wins in Beijing. He beat Musetti, he beat Medvedev. And I think Lerner Tien's one of those guys at the moment who, he's still pretty young. He's 19 years old. And whilst he's not, this was his first tour level final. And of course, he gets the toughest possible challenge in Jannik Sinner. Equal level of challenge with Carlos Alcaraz, I'd say. And that was always going to be a massive long shot for him to win the title in that situation. I mean, look, if he did, that would be like, oh gosh, okay, is this kid on Sincaraz levels? But the fact he's getting top 10 wins and on his day, match to match, he's a dangerous player and he will give you entertainment and he's a threat to a top player on any given day now at 19. So let's see how he develops. But yeah, Ground Pass were all about these newer names, all these names you don't hear about as much. And Lerner Tien's going to be part of that conversation for a little bit longer until he does something really, really big. Same with Heliovara and Patton. We're always going to be mentioning them whenever they do well or whenever they give us a good match. Yeah, I think if we want to look for the Ground Pass story from the ATP events in Tokyo and Shanghai, Tokyo and Beijing, wrong Chinese city.
Yeah.
Then it's Lerner Tien, probably. Unless you can think of someone else, Anastasia.
No, I think it's Lerner Tien. And here's a big stat for you. Lerner Tien has the most top 10 wins after Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. He's going to be, I think, he's going to be in the conversation for a while, for sure. So keep an eye on Lerner Tien.
There's a lot of people hyped about him. I know a lot of American hardcore tennis fans who are like, this kid's going to be the next big US star. So I guess if you see him in the US spring swing, or go and catch him while you can before he starts upping the ticket prices, I guess, or only focuses on the 1000s. So yeah, if you want to put him on your players to watch list, that would be it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be talking about him more. He just added Michael Chang to his coaching squad. So stay tuned for match stories on him. While all that was happening, Shanghai started. So Shanghai is an ATP 1000 level event that has already started because the tournaments at this point, they just go back to back to back. So Shanghai is an ATP 1000 level event. It's already started. Taylor Fritz, who was in the finals of Tokyo, he went straight into Shanghai. He won his first match. I do not know how, because he was in the finals of Tokyo and had his leg taped. So he's already, I think, on his last leg. He went from Laver Cup to the finals of Tokyo, won his first match in Shanghai. I don't know how. And he actually lost today to Giovanni Mempeschi-Perricard. And I think he's definitely had a long run of tennis. Giovanni played really well. I think this is one of the best matches Giovanni has played in a while. If you don't know Giovanni Mempeschi-Perricard, he's 6'8". He's really, really tall. He's a really, really tall, big server. So his game is centered around his serve a lot. He does have some great ground strokes, but if they're not working, he just does rely on his serve. And this is one of those matches where his ground strokes were really working. So it was really tough for Taylor. So he lost that match.
A quick note on that, like it would have had to have been because, as you say, the reputation, like I was looking at it going, how did Taylor lose to GMP even though he wasn't moving well? But obviously things were clicking for Impeshi Pericard. And then I remember that 5-set match they played at Wimbledon. So maybe It was probably the worst possible opponent for Taylor to play, because if it's not, because they can match easily either serve for serve. So maybe if Taylor was coming in a bit compromised, it's not a surprise. So I think what we're saying is don't start doing Darren Taylor Fritz yet. Even though, as we are going into the next section, the Americans in general have not been doing well in Shanghai.
Yeah, they have not. They have not. I was just going to jump onto Tiafoe, who lost early to qualifier Yannick Hanfmann. And it was one of those matches that I had to go back and rewatch. And Tiafoe had won the first set and then lost the second 2 sets, 1 and 2. And he just went away. And there's a match stories that's coming soon. Frances Tiafoe in general. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Match Stories is a series that we have on YouTube where we dissect a topic centered around a specific match. So we've had one, for example, on the Lost Boys, which are Daniil Medvedev, Alexander Zverev, and Stefanos Tsitsipas, and how they have kind of faded away when they were supposed to be the next big three. I centered that around a match that Alexander Zverev had against Lorenzo Musetti. We've had one on Naomi Osaka. So they're always centered around a match, but it's all about a bigger topic. So we have one coming out on Frances Tiafoe, so stay tuned for that. Andrei Rublev is also still struggling in China. He is also out in Shanghai. But I think, Nick, what's happening right now in Shanghai is the weather. It is hot and humid. And humid in Shanghai.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest here, Anastasia, I have not watched any Shanghai yet because I've been focusing on Beijing and the early round. I think once Alcaraz pulled out, I lost a little bit of interest. Just none of the matches on paper looked that interesting, but then I've seen all these Americans dropping out and I'm like, okay, maybe things are getting a bit mixed up over there. But because Shelton lost as well to David Goffin, who then retired against Gabriel Diallo today. So Shelton's probably going, why didn't you retire against me? Yeah, it's not been comfortable, though, from what I can gather. And interestingly, I was catching up with my Hong Kong friend today, and I was like, oh, yeah, so the tennis is happening in Shanghai and Beijing and around China at the moment. And he was like, oh, it's going to be hot and humid. That's not going to be good. I said, well, it's better than playing in the summer, right? He said, oh, yeah, you couldn't play tennis in the Chinese summer. This is more bearable. But he was fully, that was the first thing that he mentioned when I said they're playing in Shanghai. So maybe it's not uncommon, but it seems to be particularly uncomfortable at the moment.
Yes, it is. And we actually have a voice note from our friend Eddie of Tennis Asia. We've actually had Eddie on the podcast before. I think this was it last year during the Asian Swing? Yes.
We had him on to explain what the Asian Swing was.
Yeah.
To kind of give us an introduction to it.
Yes. So we've had him on the podcast before. He's really great. I will leave all the information down below to his podcast and his YouTube channel where he discusses the Asian swing, Asian players. It's really great if you want an insight into that world. And it's really great so you get sort of a wider view because we only touch about Asian players and he goes way deep and you get to know the Asian players a lot more. So I'll leave all that info below. But he dropped us a note because he was in Shanghai. And he talks about the weather, the tournament, and it's actually, listen, and it's very interesting how you get your ticket to enter into the Shanghai Masters.
Hi there, it's Eddie here. I'm just going to run through my experience this year at the Shanghai ATP Masters 1000 tournament, which of course is taking place in Shanghai, and it's the biggest tournament on the men's side in Asia. This tournament I actually attended back in 2018 when it was just a 1 week tournament. Now it is a 2-week event. Officially, the main draw runs from the 1st of October through to the 12th, with the qualifying rounds, in the 2 days before that. So, yeah, it really runs for about 2 weeks, and it was interesting to see the difference this time compared to last time. Certainly this year, it was much hotter, and I think that's probably because the tournament starts earlier, because of the extended time for the tournament. And yeah, I think it was just a bit hotter this year in general. It was very hot and humid. So it was quite uncomfortable sometimes, I have to admit. But the tournament itself also has changed in some other ways. When I came last time, I remember you bought the tickets online, and then I would enter as a foreigner, you need to give ID, but as a foreigner, it's going to be your passport number and your name so that you can collect the tickets. At least last time you got a physical ticket. This time, which might be a surprise to some people and maybe many of your listeners, this time we actually used facial recognition to basically use that as a ticket. So you would go, when you enter, on the left hand side, you can use you go to the counter with real name verification. So you hand over your passport and they'll check your booking, and then you scan your face, and when your face is scanned into the system, you can just actually use your face to enter the ground. So you can scan your face, and you can use that to enter the stadium as well. So that's obviously a big change and something to bear in mind. Another big thing as well, of course, because it was a holiday, it was super busy compared to last time. It's Golden Week, the biggest holiday week, in China. So it meant the city itself is especially very busy, but the tournament was well attended, compared to last time. And certainly it was much hotter and humid this time, so something to bear in mind. If you are uncomfortable with that, you maybe become well prepared, bring a fan, get plenty of liquids, etc. But I attended 2 days, basically on the Friday, which was a second round match, or second round matches, I should say, which was on the centre court. Tickets were not expensive at all. That was for the day session. So there's actually a day session and an evening session. The day session with 2 matches on centre court, stadium court, and then evening session, which starts at 6:30 p.m. You have another 2 matches. I saw 2 matches, 460 yuan for 2 tickets, so 230 each, which is only about $32 I looked it up. So it's not expensive. And then I went again on Sunday, and that was 380 yuan for 1 ticket, but that was about $53. That was on Grandstand 2, which also is ticketed. So you should bear in mind, if you're going to buy tickets, if you buy tickets for centre court, that will allow you access, of course, to that court, but then also to the other courts to watch matches in the outer courts, court 3, court 6, etc. But it does not get you access to Grandstand 2, which is the second stadium. It's quite a fairly big stadium, but that has its own ticketing, and that will allow you to see, today it was about 4 matches. So, you get quite a lot of play with that. And again, you'll be able to see some of the outer courts where you'll be able to see other matches, and also, practices as well. And that was popular for people to see. I was able to see just today a practice, learner Tien practicing alongside his coach, Michael Shang. Now, so it's a good experience overall. The grounds are very impressive. The stadium, the centre court stadium, is very impressive. It has a retractable roof, and I did see that on Friday. They did close it because it was quite damp, although it wasn't raining as such. They decided to close the roof, and that is quite impressive as well when it is closed. So the stadium itself was really impressive. The grounds are large, and it's nice. A lot of things to do. Gonna have plenty of food options, Western and Chinese. Coffee, different things that you can do in terms of buy, tennis equipment or various things. And it's definitely a nice experience in terms of the overall grounds. The fans are enthusiastic for sure. And yeah, overall, it's definitely an interesting experience. One thing I would say is that the tournament is situated quite far outside of the city, which is maybe maybe the major drawback of this tournament is that it is a bit outside the city. So you're either going to have to, if you're going to be going to this tournament, you're probably going to be staying, within the city, and you're going to have to take the subway. I forget the station, but it's on the Red Line. You take that towards the south of the city, and then from there you can take a shuttle bus or a taxi to the venue. I mean, they do actually run a shuttle bus, so that's good if you want to save money. I was staying in Jing'an at the Holiday Inn Hotel in Jing'an. That was a good hotel. I should recommend to you, by the way. But from there, I was just taking a taxi because it isn't expensive. So yeah, I mean, it took about 45, 50 minutes. It depends on traffic, etc. Yeah, but that's something obviously to bear in mind. And yeah, one thing I'd also as well, when it comes to paying, I mean, when you're in the grounds, yeah, you probably can just use your credit card to pay, and contactless, you can tap your card. But in general, maybe a recommended thing to do is you can add your credit cards to apps called Alipay and WeChat. I used Alipay, and that just allowed me to easily pay for things, not just within the tournament, but generally within Shanghai. So you can do that, and you can scan a QR code, or they will scan your QR code on the app, and that will be linked to your credit card. And that was very easy when it came to paying for anything. So yeah, I mean, that's my experience overall. One thing I wanted to also mention was that, I just by coincidence on Thursday, I came across in the city, there was a street there where they actually had set up, I think it was set up by the tournament because, or maybe the tennis association, but there was a street that was, closed off from traffic. And so, yeah, they had a promotion as well with large tennis balls showing Chengdu Open and then Shanghai Masters. To promote the event, and then they set up a large screen on that street and some chairs in front of it, which was I shared the image of that on my personal X account, and it seemed to have gone viral because people liked the vibe. The vibe was nice, yeah, for sure, because it was very chill. Not that many seats in front of the screen, but yeah, people were just chilling there, hanging out, watching the match going on at the Shanghai Masters, and yeah, it was definitely a nice vibe. So yeah, that's something that you might be able to find if you're in Shanghai. And that was particularly, that specific location for that was by the Goose Island Brewery, or Goose Island Brew House, which was on Maoming North Road. I don't know if that's there every year like that, but for the duration of this tournament, I expect that'll be like that. And I don't know whether it's always just closed off to the traffic, but yeah, it was this time, and yeah, it was a pretty nice little spot. So yeah, maybe if you want to save money some days, or you still want to see the tennis, maybe that's a recommended little spot for you. But yeah, overall, it was definitely a nice experience in terms of the tournament itself. Do recommend it, but obviously things to bear in mind, as I said, with how the tournament is, quite far outside the city, so you've got to make sure you're prepared for that. But overall, yeah, I did enjoy the experience, and yeah, I would recommend it to anyone interested in attending.
So, Nick, facial recognition
does not surprise me from what I know about China.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it works. It's one way of saying, yeah, this is my ticket, this is who you are, your name is on the ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not crazy to show some kind of ID to go into a tournament. You have to at Wimbledon.
Yeah, it's high tech, modern, your face is your ticket.
Yeah. I mean, saves carrying around a bit of paper, I guess. Could you imagine if you were tennis fan for life and your face just got you into tournaments? Just
all of them. And they're oh, we know you. Yeah. You've been to this many tournaments. Or they're wow, you've been to a lot of tournaments.
Or you're in please, we can't let you in after last time list.
You can't come to any more tournaments. You've done too much this year. I actually also specifically like the street TV that it seems like the tournament put up in an area in the city so people could watch. I've seen something very similar happens during the US Open, but the US Open, like the USTA, they don't organize it and put it up. It's usually sort of like a private entity that puts it up. And I've been to some of them before, and it's always not fully done, not correctly, but it's like they don't play the tennis the whole time, and it's not maybe a full match. So it'd be interesting to see something like that, because again, not everyone can go to the tennis. There's so many public sort of squares and areas in New York. It would be super cool if there was just like a TV in one place the whole time where you could just come and know that the tennis was on. I think this year in Madison Square did it for maybe like the second week. But yeah, it would be cool. I love that idea of just having a screen where you could come and just like hang out and watch the tennis. And I did see Eddie's photo that he posted on X, and it was like, I was like, oh, this is a vibe. And it was like near a brewery. So it's like you can grab a drink, sit down, and like watch the tennis. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's a very cool setup. And I like they're trying to engage fans in the city, because obviously you've got to, because it's outside the city, as Eddie described, it's, you know, you've got to tell people it's there and get them hyped for the tennis somehow. Otherwise it's going to be like, there's tennis going on? It's not like other tournaments. It's kind of like Miami. If Miami had put something up there, because you've said before, like it's very much outside of the city, like near the stadium. So yeah, imagine if they did something like that in Miami. That'd be cool.
That would be cool, actually. That's a really great point, because yeah, you do have to drive outside of central Miami to get to the Miami Open.
Come to DSW for the shoes, stay for the fun. Because let's be honest, if shoe shopping isn't fun, are you even doing it right? So go ahead, try something new. Try something different. Good different. Try something that feels like you. You know, the real you. And then definitely brag about it later. Because at DSW, you've got unlimited freedom to play. With sneakers, boots, and everything in between for every style, mood, and occasion, you'll definitely find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. DSW. Let us surprise you.
Okay, on to the WTA. The WTA in Beijing. This has been a very interesting tournament, and I'm not going to go into this too much because, again, we don't want this to be a super long podcast, but Beijing has been really interesting, and I think maybe this is something that we'll keep for the off season, because my thoughts on 2-week tournaments has evolved over time. I definitely was someone who I was like, hey, 2-week tournaments, I'm fine with it. It's whatever. 1 week, 2 weeks, who cares? They have a day off. It seems great for the athletes if they want a day off to rest and things like that. But for some reason, Beijing just kept on going. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And at first I was fine with it. But when we got to the quarterfinals and semifinals of Beijing, I was like, why is there 2 quarterfinals on each day? I was like, why can't we do all 4 in one day? I was so upset.
Yeah, it made no sense. I remember thinking that was like, why are we splitting it up so much? Because there's no other, like there might be some doubles, but like the men had finished their tournament. They weren't necessarily splitting the time with them. So what was happening there that made them think that was a good idea to try and drag it out? Like I would have just had a Saturday final or something.
Yeah.
Finished it then, because then they could get to Wuhan. Yeah, I thought that was a slightly strange decision and scheduling by the tournament on their part. I mean, it's not too dissimilar to Grand Slams that have like 2 semi-finals a day, like either side. Like, so they have a thin schedule in that respect. But yeah, I was like, that's not really enough tennis to justify this at this point.
No. And I don't know. I think maybe because when I was thinking about it, I was like, why does this seem especially egregious? And I thought, you know what is different? In most 2-week Masters that I can think of, it's a mixed event. So usually you have 2 women, 2 men. So you're just like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But because it was just like literally just 2 quarterfinals, I was like, this is not it. So, but either way,
I have a question.
Was a very, yes.
Do you think that we'll have the same problem with Shanghai, which is also a 2-week event?
I think so. Because already with Shanghai, I'm sort of like, all right, okay. What round are we at? I literally
Yeah.
have no idea what round we're at Shanghai. I think
I
we're at the
think
third
we
round.
are doing the last 32 today, so round 3.
Okay. Yeah. So it's going to be, because then we have another week of this. Like we literally have another week
Yeah.
of Shanghai. And I thought,
And
that's interesting.
I think my top tip for consuming 2-week Masters events, because it's different with, I think Grand Slams are a lot more different because they feel a lot more frenetic because the draws are bigger and it's just match after match after match after match after match for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Whereas these 2-week 1000s, whether they're combined or whether they're just one tour, they tend to have qualifying and then they'll start kind of a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and then they'll do the first round, which is kind of a second leg of qualifying because there's no seeds in it yet, or not as many seeds. It depends on how many buys they give, and then you're into the kind of the tournament proper by sort of the last 32, round 3, sort of round 2, as it were. But because it's a lot more spread out and there's not that packed thing, you do have that breathing room where you think, okay, it's going on a bit long. So I actually think you need to pace yourself more when consuming a 2-week 1000, because we could talk about it from a player's perspective. And like, I don't think the spectacle is necessarily hit for a fan if you can find some good matches. I am a fan of the idea of doing 2 weekend thousands, which we can go into, but another time. But I think as a fan, consuming things as they are now, which says let's not go with how things should be. But like, I highly recommend just pace yourself. Be very selective with what matches you watch early on. And then you have the energy to then get hyped and start consuming things when things really get heated up. Because I thought when I saw the Beijing quarterfinal lineup that this was like, this is actually quite a good set of quarterfinals. And some of the matches we got were actually pretty entertaining. So by that point, it's like, okay, if you've tried to consume everything and felt it run quite slow, you're not going to be as enthused by it. Whereas by this point, again, obviously not watching as much because it's Asia. That's also going to have an effect. Like we're just connected with what's going on. So of course, it's like, where are we at? What's going on? We're not watching as much because of our time zone. So you've got to, I guess, say, pace yourself, get hyped for the proper end of the tournament, and be selective with the matches you watch. If you're really excited to watch a player, follow their story on the TV and just go from there. Obviously, if you're attending the tournament, that's a whole different thing. And you can consume everything going on and you can get hyped. You can go and discover some new people there. And that's why, it's really great that we had Eddie's voice note, because we've been talking about how do you plan a trip to a Chinese tournament. And I'm really glad we've got that. But if you're watching on TV, just pace yourself and you might enjoy it more.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think that's really, really great advice, is sort of pace yourself and pick the stories that you want to follow, and don't try and sort of like do everything at the same, especially with these 2-week Masters. No, that's really, really great advice. So what were the big stories I think that came out of this? I would say one of them, which it was so funny, I woke up, I looked at my phone, and the first thing I saw was a text from Nick saying, "You're about to watch a beatdown." And I was like, okay, let's go.
Did you, obviously you had no context. I gave you no context because I didn't want to tell you which way it was definitely going to go. Because I don't know whether you can tell me this now. When you decide to catch up on a match, do you watch with no spoilers, or do you see the score and watch it knowing what the score is?
I see the scores and I watch knowing what the score is.
Okay, I'll remember that for next time, because if it was the other way around, I'd have wanted to watch that match not knowing.
Because for me, it's impossible sometimes. Like, it's just, it's tough. So I actually don't mind knowing what the score is. I'll just watch it and still enjoy it, actually, because I'll see the score. And then here's the thing, guys, actually, that I want to, because sometimes I think people see the score and they're like, it's ruined, No. In my opinion, not for tennis. You might see a score that says 6-love, 6-2 and be like, oh, it's ruined. Not necessarily, because I think in tennis, the score doesn't always tell the story. It could have been, because even when you see the score between the Anisimova and Coco Gauff match, which is a match that we're talking about, where Coco Gauff lost to Anisimova 6-1, 6-2. And yes, it was a beatdown. Anisimova played lights out. Like, she was so good. And 6-1, the first set, 6-1, she just crushed. She like totally crushed. And you could think, okay, 6-2, she completely crushed. What you wouldn't have realized was it was 5-love. And then Coco came back. She broke back and then was making a run for it. She was trying to make a run for it late in the second. But then it was, pretty much too late. But you wouldn't have really known that from a 6-2. You would have just thought, oh, she must have held at some early point, and then, but no, she didn't. It was literally 5-love, and then she broke Amanda, and then held, and then, and that's how we got to 6-2. Yeah. So the score doesn't always tell the story. Watch the match, and then that's how you find out things like that. So Amanda Anisimova defeated Coco Gauff. Coco had been playing well this tournament. Again, that's another episode of a match story that's coming to you sometime soon, I hope.
How long have you been promising a Coco Gauff match story for, Anastasia?
3 weeks, almost a month, I think. About. But, life, busy. It's coming, guys. It's coming. Remember, if you listened to the birthday episode, there is no team. It is Nick and Anastasia. If there was a team, you would have a Coco Gauff match stories, but I have to record it. Well, I have to write the script for it, record it, edit it, post it. It takes time. And then do real life in my job. But yeah, it's just like Coco is working on her game. She's trying to refine a few things, and her current game can work on certain players, and her athleticism can work and win matches against certain players. But if you come across an Amanda Anisimova in her current form, she's what? Is she currently 4 or 5 in the world? I think she's 4.
4.
Yeah, 4 in the world. It's going to be a tough go of it. And Amanda Anisimova really proved her current form.
As she did, so I think we should kind of wrap up all the Anisimova storylines now, because as of recording, Amanda Anisimova is the Beijing champion. She went on to beat Linda Noskova in the final. Linda Noskova making a 1,000 final for the first time in her career. One of the highlights of the season for her in so many ways. We'll get back to her in a minute. But Amanda right now is just so good. And I think I got to like the halfway point of this tournament and I was like, we're going to get an Iga versus Amanda final because they're clearly the 2 best players in the draw right now. Although I then saw Coco. I was like, oh no, Coco's getting back in there. And get used to seeing Amanda Anisimova wins as a headline, because I'm watching her now and I genuinely don't think there is anyone better than her in full flow. I think that the athleticism, the weaponry, the fight is up there with Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek, who is also another player that has the athleticism and the weaponry to bother Coco Gauff and actually be able to hit through her. Hasn't for a while, but can on paper do that. But Amanda is just like, I'm watching her and I'm going, no wonder she's beaten Aryna and Iga this year. And no wonder she's been in 2 Grand Slam finals. No wonder she's won 2 1,000s this tournament. I think we don't necessarily hype the big players as much on here, but I think she's getting there. And I think we're going to be adding her name to when we talk about Aryna, Coco and Iga as the leading contenders to win tournaments now. I think if she keeps up this consistency of being in the sharp end of tournaments, which she seems to be doing, she's got the level to make it an absolutely fascinating dynamic. And suddenly we're looking at she's now in the list of those names that you have to beat to win a tournament in the WTA, which is not necessarily a bar in the same way as Sinkaraz, but I think it's always exciting when you add more names into that mix. And yeah, I watched Anisimova this week and I watched the highlights of the final and the way she was injecting so much power into her shots, how composed she is, how she's able to reset if there's a setback. She's playing like a champion at the moment. And yeah, she deserves top 4 status. That is for sure.
Yeah, no, totally. And another match that happened that I think people were talking about a lot, Iga Swiatek loses to Emma Navarro. Emma Navarro, they've played before, and I think Emma lost that match.
It was a beatdown in Australia this year.
Exactly. So that was a different outcome for sure. And I wanted to bring up this match specifically because, and I think it was also something that you retweeted that also triggered me wanting to bring this up, because Iga is someone else who is also working on her game, but it's not talked about as much as Coco working on her game, because I think she also just doesn't talk about it. Like, I don't think Iga is someone who talks about like, oh, I'm working on this, I'm working on this. But I think because she's working on her game, her results this year haven't been Iga, like Iga of 24, Iga of 23, where she just dominates, But I think she is someone who's working on her game. And it's one of those things where I think she's in this mode of working on her game. I was talking to Amy Lundy, is a writer who she's on X, and I've met her at tournaments before and we've had conversations, but we were talking on X actually recently, and we were talking about this match specifically. Iga does this thing that's super fascinating to me, especially when it comes to top players, where when a top player is losing, you usually expect them to sort of switch something up. When Iga's losing, she just doubles down, which is so funny to me, because I'm just like, girl, switch something up. Do something different. And I know she's working on that, but it's so interesting to watch. And when you get into a sport, I think this is something that you can sort of like look out for and watch in athletes. But yeah, I just think Iga is someone who's working on her game, but no one really talks about it. They just talk about if she loses or wins. But I think because she's working on her game, these sort of losses happen, because it's like, I don't know what you think about that, because I saw your tweet, the tweet that you retweeted that was talking just about this, where it's sort of like she's reworking her game. And then just like Coco, it's kind of like when you come across an opponent who's just going to like challenge you, it's sort of like you don't know where to go with it.
Yeah, and the way Iga's been working on her game is to give herself more options and to strengthen her serve, because the way she was playing before with her old coach was very kind of regimented. Like, there was a game plan and you stuck to that game plan. Whereas now she's volleying. Now she's added some pop to her serve, and that serve won her Wimbledon. Now she's she's kind of, maybe a bit more measured during points. And I find it interesting though. Yeah, I think it's the approach to matches and changing things up that is the thing that everyone talks about with her. You're right. And that's different to working on, say, with Coco, who's working on her serve and changing how she serves. Changing how you manage a match, like in terms of your own thought process, rewiring your brain, that's harder, I think, to be honest. And not everyone does it. Now, I'm going to say that it's not unknown for Iga to change something up and change tactics during a match, because some of her greatest comeback wins have been her figuring something out during those matches. I'm thinking of against Rybakina at the French Open this year. She did that midway through. Some of her great comeback wins in 2024 and 2023 against Naomi Osaka or Danielle Collins or Belinda Bencic. She figured something out and changed something and just sort of reset herself and saw her goal a lot clearer. Whereas I think when she's not able to do that, she doubles down and goes, no, because this game plan usually wins. So if I keep doing this, it will work.
Yeah.
And I think also when she gets frustrated, she's stubborn and she will dig in. Like, you and I probably both know people like that in real life who are like, yeah, no, this is the way to do it. Yeah, I wasn't actually thinking of you, but you have put your hand up. So there you go. But yeah, it's a bit like me saying I think it's and some of the conversation between fans about this is very much like, Iga, stop doing this. Stop. Just be willing to reset and rethink it. Like, first of all, it's a very stressful situation. It's easier said than done. And secondly,
True.
like, imagine if I just told you, Anastasia, stop being a perfectionist. Like, A, you would get really, really annoyed with me, and rightly so. And B, it's not as easy as that. It's also like
easy.
telling me, there's people who tell me stuff about myself, like, stop being so hard on yourself when you fail. That's what people say to me all the time. I'm like, how? So if she figures it out, that's going to come with a lot of mental discipline. And
Yeah.
I know what lots of people are going to say. It's like, isn't that what Daria Abramovich, her psychiatrist, is for? Like, psychologist even, not psychiatrist, psychologist. Like, isn't that what she's for? It's like, Daria cannot literally go inside Iga's brain and rewire it. She's there to help Iga do it herself. That's what a good psychologist does. That's what a good therapist does. So, yeah, she's working on it. And that's why you'll see these ups and downs. By the way, it's not that bad. Iga's losing about as often as Arina Sabalenka is. Same, who's the world number one?
Yeah.
Coco's not far off those numbers either. So they're still kind of the best in the world. It's just that they're not synchronous, which is fine because they don't have to be. So I think that's what it is. It's like, yeah, you're right. There's these little things that she's working on, and she is a lot more up and down. We'll see if she stabilizes in 2026. But this will be like sometimes top players have off years. Serena Williams did and still won a Grand Slam. Yeah. So, I think it's an interesting journey for Iga Swiatek. But if you are a tennis fan or a fan of her specifically, be aware that sometimes that's how she processes things. And hey, if you have a bad day, it's hard to get out of your old habits.
Yeah. No, I think it's just an important topic to think about because, again, it's very similar to what we hear, or at least like comments I'll see, especially when it's Coco Gauff and, she won the French Open, and then people just like, well, then why didn't she win Wimbledon? And then why didn't she win the US Open? And then why didn't she win every single tournament after that? And you're just like, athletes, they change games, they do different things, but this is a different topic for maybe the off season. We'll put a pin in it for that. If you want to talk about ground pass stories from Beijing, we got to talk about Ivelisse and Sonet Cartel. Those were incredible runs to the quarterfinals by both athletes. And, we've mentioned, I think Sonet Cartel and Ivelisse have both been players of the Fortnight on ground pass before. Yeah, I think they both have been. And, Ivelisse, we always talk about her. She's the luckiest of lucky losers. She was at the Australian Open. And Sonet Cartel also had a fantastic run during Wimbledon. These are just players to know. They've had really, really great seasons this year. And, I think it's a great sort of jumping off point leading into next season. I will say this was a really, really great post by friend of the pod, Abigail Johnson. Abigail Johnson posted this last year, qualifying into the Beijing tournament was a match between Sonet Cartel and Amanda Anisimova, qualifying. And this year, Sonet Cartel makes the quarterfinals and Amanda Anisimova wins the title. So, what a difference a year makes.
Which will also
never
help.
Know.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, I was going to say, it also makes a difference for Sonai's ranking because she's defending a championship from last year, which was a 250. Getting to the quarterfinals of a 1000, it's not the same as a 250, but it's not far off. So she's not taken that much of a loss. She's still going to be very much in the mix. And she has been one of the ground pass stories of this season. And I was so impressed. I didn't see it, but I was so impressed to see that she beat Mira Andreeva in such a tight match because you would think Mira would have been able to move her around a lot. But Cartel's a fighter, and that's why she's so great to watch. And she digs in. And again, Ivelisse was one of these stories of the Australian Open and has been periodically popping up and giving us great matches this year. So it's nice to see, like, I thought the same thing, like Beijing's highlighting these players who are like having low-key good seasons. And that's what we're here to talk about.
Yes, totally. Lastly, I just want a quick word on Linda Noskova because she is just one of these players that she's a bit up and down. Like sometimes she does really well and then she disappears. But I feel like Linda Noskova, who, by the way, she got to the finals of Beijing, and she's a finalist there. She lost the match against Anisimova, but she's just one of those players who, at her best, she'll beat anyone. I think she was, what was it? It was 2 years ago, Australian Open, where she made that, like, it was that big, she was the one who beat Iga, right? Or was it Elena?
Iga, yeah, it was Australian Open 2024. She beat Iga in the third round in 3 sets.
Yeah, and it was just like this big thing. But again, at her best, Linda Noskova is a very, very good player. I think she's one to keep up with. She's very up and down, I will say that, but you're then not also surprised when she does something like this, like get to the finals of a 1,000 level event.
Yeah, I think she is definitely one of those players who's up and down her rankings based on when she has up weeks. A bit like Frances Tiafoe on the ATP side. The difference with Noskova is that she's a lot younger. She's still only 20. So there's an element of development in here, but there's no question that she's hugely, hugely talented and has a lot of great weapons. And like when she puts it all together, is not only, not only can beat anyone, but is a great watch in the process. And I thought she handled everything pretty well. Credit to her for like pulling off a comeback against Jessica Pegula and in the semi-finals, because that Pegula served for that match and then lost it in a tie. Like Noskova got it in the tiebreak, and then in the final, you could be overawed by your first 1,000 final, and then losing the first set in a bagel to Anisimova, and then Noskova digs in, keeps fighting, and wins the second set 6-2, and made the third set a bit of a battle up until Anisimova kind of pulled away. But credit to her, this was a really, really good couple of weeks for her. She's solidified some great results. And yeah, we'll see. I expect it to pop up at another tournament. I would certainly say that she is a player that I would recommend, because she's going to break top 20 now for the first time in her career in the rankings. Definitely go see her on a ground pass, because she's not going to be getting put on stadiums for the first couple of days of a Grand Slam or Indian Wells or anything like that, not unless she goes really deep in Australia at some point. So I highly recommend going to go see her if you can. Young Czech, future talent, very promising, very exciting. That's mainly what you need to know about her.
Ah, DSW, birthplace of the humble brag. Here, the shoes are so good, no one would ever know how little you paid. If you didn't go telling everyone, that is. And with never-ending options for every style, mood, and occasion, all at really great prices, we'll definitely give you something to brag about. So go ahead, stock up on fresh sneakers from your favorite brands. Or try those boots you always secretly knew you could pull off. Find the shoes that get you at prices that get your budget at DSW stores or DSW.com.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to move on now. And Nick, what we're going to do, I think, is we're only going to answer. So I said we were going to answer some Q&A questions from our birthday episode, the ones that we had left over. But of course, there's always so much to talk about. So we have very few minutes left. So we're only going to answer 3 questions. What I think we're going to do is maybe we just make this part of our episodes now. We still have a lot of questions, but we will just keep answering them. We will keep answering them on future episodes until we run out of questions, or we'll just make this a thing. If you keep sending us questions, we will keep answering them in future episodes to come. So let's just answer 3 questions that were sent in from our birthday episode Q&A request. Question we have here, we kind of answered what our favorite tournament is, but this one's really specific. It says, what is your favorite tourney in the US?
Well, for you, it's the same answer, isn't it?
It's the same answer for me, but for you, what is your favorite tournament in the US?
Interesting question, because I've never been to a tournament in the US. So this is all got to be like, what's it like to watch from TV?
Yeah, to watch.
I guess my answer is the one that doesn't mess me about time zone wise. Okay, so I would say probably my favorite US tournament to watch is the US Open, because it's on the East Coast, and so I don't miss as much.
Yeah.
Or I can kind of work around it. Like I only miss the night sessions. Like even Cincinnati's just the wrong hour out. So I'd say, yeah, City Open was also a lot of fun this year, though. I do like the look of that. That was a good fun to watch, and I did watch quite a bit of that. I'd say the tournament I most like the idea of, and the tournament I would be most excited to attend, would be Indian Wells, because it does feel, I just get the sense that it's a proper tennis fan experience to go there. And it's so geared towards people who just love the sport. So yeah, that's what I would pick.
Yeah. And mine is still a dead tie between the mixed 1,000 level event at Indian Wells and then the 500 level event in Charleston, like dead heat. I can't pick. I can't. What was your favorite interview that we've ever done? I know this answer.
Yeah. For me, it's Abigail Johnson. Has to be. Because I just thought, I found, first of all, you can tell that she's a super fan who's living her dream job. She gave some really, really great insights into what it's like to be an actual commentator, which is a thing that, I've toyed with in the past. But also, I really admired her journey of like going and chasing her dream and what she had to get through to get there, and things kind of really working towards her for her good in that. So I was really loved listening to her story, and she really did a good job of going into her approach towards doing things. So yeah, fantastic Meet the Professionals episode. Always my favorite.
This is a very interesting one, and I was like, we should definitely put this in, but do players get appearance fees that are even more than tournament winners' prize money?
No tournament announces that they've handed out an appearance fee. It's all very much under the table. I believe if the rumours are true, then it probably is pretty close to actually winning the tournament, depending on the player. So if it is like a Sinkaraz, 100%, they are probably getting something close to that.
Yes. Now, technically, apparently, for Grand Slam 1000 level events, you don't get appearance fees because you have to go to those. But for 500 level 2 fees, considering what the prize money is, appearance fees for those are you can almost guarantee that they are way more than the prize money that players will earn for those. The rumors are for sure, especially in a place like the Golden Swing, the rumors are players have been paid way more than they would earn if they won the events to attend those. So yes. So yeah, those are the only questions we will answer. We have more questions. We will answer them in future episodes. Again, thank you guys so much for sending those in. I really actually enjoyed these, so I think we'll just keep them going. It's fun to answer these questions, so keep them coming. There are also some other topics that we wanted to hit on that have been going on, like there have been hot topics on tour, the schedule, court speed. Getting into those right now will make this a 4-hour long episode, so we will leave those on the shelf for another time to talk about. What's next?
We will get to them though, because the schedule keeps coming up. The schedule keeps coming up, and court speed is a thing that I wouldn't be surprised if people asked about at some point again.
Totally.
It will come around again. So 100%, we're not ignoring the topic.
We will talk about it. We will talk about it for sure. Nick, what's next? What's next on tour?
Well, Shanghai is happening this week. It's going to finish off. Hopefully you've paced yourself and you're going to enjoy the rest of it. Let's see if Jannik Sinner wins it, what Novak Djokovic can do, because he certainly seems to have turned up trying to win this thing, which is going to be interesting. And then the women's event, we've got another 1,000 going on. This is only a 1-week 1,000, and that's in Wuhan, in China. Arina Sabalenka is back. That is the headline. And so it'll be interesting to see, like, when now we've got a proper top 4 back in the mix, how that's going to go. But this is Arina's backyard. Arina has never lost in Wuhan, ever. Yeah. So she's won the last 3 tournaments that they've played here. 2018, 2019, big break for reasons, and then last year. So she's definitely going to be the hot favourite if she's fit. And even if she's not, she's probably got a good chance. So we'll see how that goes, and if anyone can kind of topple her from her queendom in Wuhan. I would also throw out there that, like we also talked about Zheng Qinwen being injured and not being able to play, which is a big deal for the fans, but we mentioned that earlier in the show along with Alcaraz's injury. So that's probably the main other story that kind of think about. But yeah, Shanghai and Wuhan, more Asian swing as it will be for the next week or two, I would say.
Yeah, totally. Arina Sabalenka is a star in Wuhan. I've seen all these videos of her since she arrived. She's they call her the queen of fried rice because she likes fried rice and she always talks about it. And the nicknames the Chinese fans have given the players are just epic. But yeah, so that's what's going on tour. And now, as always, it is time. It is time for the players of the Fortnight, Nick. It is time.
Yeah.
Yes. You want to go first?
Sure, because I'm curious to know what yours is, so I can live react to that. So you mentioned before of like the kind of underdog names throughout the year, where we talked about that Ivelisse and Sonai Kartal getting to the quarterfinals of Beijing. And so I was thinking, who do I pick? Because we have a rule that we don't choose the same player twice within the same year. So I was like, well, I've already had Kartal from Indian Wells, and I already did Ivelisse from Australia. And then I looked back at Player of the Fortnight. I went, hang on a minute, did I? And then I looked back at Player of the Fortnight, and I was like, wait, no, I gave Player of the Fortnight to Maddie Keys in Australia. So, and then I was like, oh, heck, I think I've spent most of the year thinking I've already given a Player of the Fortnight to Ivelisse. Fortunately, this is probably the week that she most deserves it. So Ivelisse is getting Player of the Fortnight. She went from lucky loser in Australia with her ka-ching face. If you haven't seen that, then please go and search that on social media, because it is the great thing. And like, that's what I call it. If you just search Ivelisse ka-ching face, Google will not know what you're talking about. But, you know, her reaction to the prize money she was going to get at the Australian Open. And then she's been popping up through the year with some great results. And then this week, she finally gets a top 10 win against Elena Rybakina. Big win, and then backs that up and makes the quarterfinals. And Ivelisse is a player who has played so many good matches and so many exciting matches this year, but Beijing is where she's really had a breakthrough and she's won some of the bigger ones, and she makes the most of the opportunities she gets, and it's really exciting to see her in the mix again. For me, it's really nice seeing how far she's come, because the first time I watched her was actually against Iga Swiatek in Stuttgart 3 years ago, and that was a beatdown. So I don't think it would be as straightforward now if they played this year. So for me, this is why you follow the journey of a player coming through and celebrate their success. And I think Ivelisse has a lot to be proud of from this week. And you should definitely go watch her on a ground pass, because like, I remember she played Vicky and Boko in, I think it was Wimbledon. Oh no, it was the French. And it was 6-4, 6-4. But Boko couldn't pull away because Lise kept coming back at her. And I'm pretty sure I'm not talking much about the actual Beijing stuff, but that's an example to me of like why you go and watch. You know, Rybakina breadsticked her in Beijing and didn't phase her. She just came back at her. Ivelisse is a fighter. Go watch her if you can. If not, then she is a tremendous underdog to just enjoy if you get a chance to catch one of her matches on TV.
Awesome. Yes, that is a good one. And my player of the Fortnight is Jerry Shang.
Oh, is this after yesterday?
Yes. I love that we're being strict now, and we're actually looking back at our list that we started making so we could keep ourselves honest and not double, you know, even though I've done it already. I made the mistake of picking Colton Smith twice by mistake without looking at the list that we've made. But yeah, I had already picked Lerner Tien early in the year, so I knew he couldn't be my player of the Fortnight, even though he did deserve it. But Jerry Shang has been off tour for pretty much most of the year, and he has come back. He's been off due to injury. He's come back from injury, and he played in Beijing, lost early, and he's here playing in Shanghai. And it's just nice to see him back on tour. He's such a fun ball of energy, and he's such a bright light, I think, in tennis. He's super young, so he has so much future ahead of him. But the reason he is my player of the Fortnight, even though he hasn't played much, but really it's because of his match yesterday where he defeated Karen Khachanov, getting a top 10 win in his return back from injury. So that was a really, really great match, really exciting. And it just goes to show that his sort of promise of, because people were super excited about Jerry Shang. He's from China, you know, and there's very little representation of Chinese players in the top of the sport. And here was a young Chinese player who showed promise that he could be a top player. And then he got injured. So to see him come back, get this really great result right away from his return is really great to see. I'm really glad he's back. He's super exciting, super fun. The fans were so excited by the win. And yeah, Jerry Shang is back. He's the player of the Fortnight for this week. And keep an eye on him. He always has some sort of trinket on his bag, a boo-boo or something fun. He's just a fun player and really exciting to watch.
He's so much fun. I've enjoyed watching him whenever I've seen him play, like coming through. It's been such a shame he's been injured because he is, to me, probably China's most promising talent ever. And in the men's side, I should say specifically, because we've got Zhang Junwei on the women's and Li Na in the past. But honestly, I love the way he games. I love how creative he is. I love how dynamic he is. I have been so stoked for him, and I'm hopeful that now he's going to be healthy and he's going to really make some good progress back to where he belongs, sort of at the top of the game, and keep entertaining us. So yeah, great pick. Go watch Jerry Shang.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us this week on another episode of Ground Pass. We will be back again next week with a mini pod or maybe a Meet the Professionals. We will see. Still TBD. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Give us a rating, hopefully 5 stars. Hopefully we have deserved a 5-star review. And now I think we can now start asking for questions. If you have a question about tennis, about us, about the podcast, what's going on tour, anything like that, drop us a question in the comments or email us anything, carry a pigeon, and we will do our best to answer your questions. See you on the next episode of the podcast. Bye, guys.
Bye.